Hey everyone, so I just wanted to give some pointers for those of you who are following me for spiritual direction. The readings for today from the church were really nice, but for me the one that I was most resonating with was the Psalm, "In God's company there is no fear," and that the Lord is our light and our salvation. When we trust in Him, we don't fear. I think it's important for us to remember that in these times that we're living in, they're times not only of economic destruction, but also destruction of our planet and a destruction of even respect for our institutions. I see that they want to take away certain rights and privileges that the churches had for the non-profits. And that's going to affect a lot of our non-profits in Canada if it does go ahead. I'm glad that the church leadership have taken the initiative to speak out on it and to bring it forward, because when you're a lay person and you're a lay woman, it's hard unless you have that leadership from the people who are in those administrative positions and who are leading the church in that way. It's hard for the rest of us. It makes it a little easier to speak out and to take a stand when there is that kind of support, because with the work that we do, especially as activists, we're coming up against the government. So we have to learn to balance what the government wants and what our aims are. And it's not easy to do, because we know that there has to be accountability, there has to be partnership, and there also has to be a respect that people are coming in with different values. So that's part of the work that I've been doing with my volunteering, whether it's in the church or other non-profits. It's to hold that balance. And even with the US aid, a lot of people are not opposing what Donald Trump is doing, because we're saying, you know what, there has to be accountability. Even with the funding that we're getting to go to Africa or for our churches, we are supporting there being accountability. We are supporting saying that we need to know how the money is being spent, whether it's through the One campaign or RED or anywhere else, because it's tax dollars that are going overseas, and a lot of places are corrupt, including here in Canada. We have corruption in our banks, in different non-profits. So we're not opposing it, but at the same time we know that the longer the accountability fails to be put in place, the more there'll be loss of lives. And that's the hard part. In all of us who have grown up in Africa, in some way, shape or form, have benefited from aid, whether it's for our healthcare, our hospitals, our institutions, and it's the same here in Canada. There's a lot of funding that gets given to the churches, to the non-profits, so we do benefit from that. And I think it's important for us to remember that, and to remember that whose we are. This morning when I woke up, I saw these beautiful pictures of Zimbabwe. And of course my heart just sank, and I was very teary-eyed. And I just miss Zimbabwe. I just miss the sunrises, the sunsets, the savannah. I just miss it so much. But I'm here now, so I have to do whatever I can from here. And it's not easy. But those of us who have left are very sad that the black governments have destroyed the countries, and that they were given this majority rule by America. It was America and Russia. Russia supplied the arms, America provided the political support. And without that political will, you're not going to get anywhere. So it's important for us to balance that political will while saving our own lives and that of others. Because if you look at the aid concerts that we held, you can see in the background, they featured all the political leaders that helped us to get those concerts going. Paul Martin, George W. Bush, and many others. At one point, Russia was involved. So, there are things that we have accomplished only because we had the political support. If we didn't have that political support, we would not have been able to accomplish it. So it's very difficult, actually. It's very hard to keep that balance between putting forward what the needs and the aims of the organization are, and also getting that political will. So I think people don't realize what work we do and how hard it is and how much thought we have to put into what we're doing, sharing our own lives, our own journeys, and what we're trying to accomplish for ourselves and others. Because the aim is always we help one person at a time, but we've been given mandates that if you are born in Zimbabwe, you bring your story about Zimbabwe forward. You talk about your life there and your life here. And it's that personal connection that helps to change things and to move things forwards. So when I see those pictures of Zimbabwe, I do miss it. And I do think about it and think about what I left behind. And it was beautiful, and it remains a beautiful country. But it's one of those things. I got to do a lot of things with my school. The school took us out. We went to see tea estates. We went to the coffee farms. We went to the abattoirs where they slaughter the cattle and the animals. We went to the farms to see how they grow the food. So we had a lot of good experiences growing up in our government schools, and it was government funded. Most of us were poor, so we had to have food programs at school like Canada has now. And that's part of the UN goals. That's part of what we are working towards as women and girls. And we've had the support before of the big bands, but their initiatives changed. Bon Jovi does amazing work for his local communities with his meals, where people can pay for what they can with a meal. If they can't pay, then they get it free. So I admire them for what they've accomplished and for what they've managed to do. But again, you need that political will, and you need people around you who are believing in you and who are supporting you. Not my journey where people are always letting me go from jobs, saying, oh yeah, you're good, but you know what, there's no job for you. And you're building up their organizations, but your own life is not changing financially. So that's my experience of Canada. And it's not only mine, it's the experience of many of the Nigerian women, the Zimbabwean women. Many of us who have come here have had very similar experiences. And it's sad, and I think if we didn't have such heartbreaking experiences, we wouldn't miss our home country so much, because to be honest, they are filled with corruption. There is a lot of poverty. Things aren't all that great, but we haven't had the support we need here. So we miss our countries, because at home we could do what we want. We were in control. We were the ones making the decisions, not people dictating to us what to do, how to dress, how to do our hair, criticizing our clothing. And that's what happens to all of us here. So it's very hard for us, but we persevere, because unfortunately the black majority governments have not made us proud. There's a few places, yes, like Botswana, but by and large they have not made us proud, and they have not built up the countries in a way that we can say, okay, we're going back now. So it's hard. It's hard. And many of us, we have buried our parents there, so it's their final resting place. And that also hurts us, because we can't visit the graves. We can't go there and put flowers. I put flowers here. I put flowers by my frame, my dad's frame and my Wits frame on my little table behind me. But it is very hard, make no doubt. And I loved England too. I couldn't stay there either. So it's one of those things. But I persevere, and Psalm 27 is very special to me. I really like reading it. And some pointers for if you can't pray, you can read the Psalms. That's a way of praying. I read Psalm 91, I read Psalm 27, I read Psalm 136. So depending on where you are, you can read the Psalm, and the Psalm can resonate with your spirit. And it's one of the things that we can remember in our lives, is that in God's company there is no fear. I think it's a very beautiful way of looking at the scriptures, and that God is our light and our help, and we can put our trust in Him, because He's always the God that comes down looking for us, that comes to us where we are, in our mountains, in our problems, in our situations. He's always the God that comes down, and He's with us in everything. So that psalm is important to me because it's the psalm that I started my spiritual direction journey with when I was in England. Psalm 26, 27, depending which version of the Bible you're using. And I also miss Damien Howard because I don't hear from him anymore. And he's got a nice job now, which I'm happy about. But I wish I could get something like that, working in a school or a retreat center or something more administrative where I could not be put under so much pressure and not lose my health. But the readings are available. You can read them and see what touches you in them. God's covenant is for us, and the Hamas is using this thing from the river to the sea. They're doing it from scripture. It's from the first reading today. To your descendants I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates. So they're using that to say that it should be theirs. But, it's quite sad what's happened to our world and all the diseases that are springing up there and that are affecting the children now. So I take heart in this Psalm 27, and it is the psalm that I started my spiritual direction with Damien Howard. And I do miss him. He's a good priest, and he was a good spiritual director for me. So I pray for them, all of them, the people who accompanied me on my journey, and I pray for him too. But I would encourage you to read the psalm for today from the scriptures. The Lord is my light and my salvation, and in Him there is no fear. The people can frighten us, they can threaten us with jail. There's all sorts of things where people's lives are taken who are innocent, and then they can't give it back to them. Lives and careers are destroyed like mine was. There's all kinds of things that happen, and God gives us that strength to move forwards and to appreciate each day. I didn't have many times with my sister and my brother. There were many times where my brother came, they went to Prospect, I was left out. But that's my journey, and I don't get to see anybody in the family that often. So for me, it's been hard, it's been sad, and I've told them many times I want to be included. But they have their own friends, they have other people who are more important to them. So I had to accept it. And that's why I have good friends. I have people who keep in touch with me, people who have been there for me through the highs and the lows. And it's a scary situation in Canada right now. So Justin Trudeau made a commitment to a lot of aid for Africa. But again, as one activist, we are saying we do want the structures put in place where we want that accountability. We don't want the money going to corruption. We don't want the money making the rich richer and the poor poorer. That's not what we're trying to do, and that's not our aim. So it's a difficult journey, You have to learn to speak your truth even when your voice shakes. And coming up against the police, coming up against politicians like Marco Mendocino, who's a lawyer, it's very intimidating. It's not what it looks like on the outside. I know people say, oh, she got to do so much, but you don't look at what my journey was. You don't look at the hardship behind it, the financial stress, the loss of health, the pressure put on me just because they think Bono has a relationship with me, which he doesn't. I'm one of his volunteers. I'm one of many volunteers. So that's my journey. And yes, if I could go back to England, I would go. Or if I got a job in Zimbabwe, I would go. Because I'm not earning what I should be earning here. And people who are born here, who have never left Canada, are not going to relate to my experience. Because they've never lived in England. They've never made the effort to go and to see some of these places, or to see that connection, or to understand me. So why would they? To them, they just see, oh, look at her, look at all the opportunities she's been given. But nobody gave me those opportunities. I had to work for them, I had to fight for them, I had to apply for them. And it's a scary situation to be in when you've been in a country as rich as Canada for over 20 years, and you're still earning minimum wage, or you're unemployed, or your employment benefits get cut off without warning. It's a scary situation. So I'm praying that a job will open up for me in this next week or so. And I've done everything right. I've invested in my skills, my education, I've volunteered. So I've done everything right. And when I've had to push back, I push back. Because it's also my life. I'm not just giving my life to organizations, whether it's the church or the One Campaign or Red or anywhere else, if I'm going to sacrifice my life. That's not the point of it. The point is that we rise by lifting others, but we also have to look after our own lives. And I hope you find comfort in that psalm for today. But yeah, today I miss Zimbabwe very, very much. I miss her.